Welcome, Shannon Woolley of Looking for Lilith Theatre in Louisville, Kentucky?
That's right.
Awesome. Thank you for being with us today. How long have you been a part of Alternate Roots?
I have been a Roots member for 10 years this summer.
Wow.
2001 was my first encounter with Alternate Roots, and I have been a part of it ever since.
Wow. How did you first hear about us?
From my friend Trina Fisher, who's also was Looking for Lilith Theatre. It was kind of interesting. She had been acting with the Actors Theatre of Louisville in the Apprentice Company, and it had been a really, really hard year for her in terms of a really traditional professional theater setting. And then she went to Roots for the first time in, I think it was 99. And she came back and said that she suddenly had a completely different view of theater and performing art and what she wanted to do with her life. And that was a pretty intriguing recommendation, that a week could sort of change the whole trajectory of her career path. And so I came with her the next summer, or I guess 2 summers later.
Would you say that coming to Alternate Roots helped to sort of give birth to Looking for Lilith?
Absolutely.
Wow.
We had just incorporated as a company in November of 2000, and we had started creating our first show. And the first time that we ever performed anything publicly as a theater company was at Alternate Roots in North Carolina. It was at Camp Mishawaka, and Trina and I did excerpts of the first ever show that we devised. And I think that's when the support that summer, and especially like the critical response process afterwards, really solidified for me that we could do what it was that we wanted to do in terms of creating our own work. So Alternate Roots was a midwife for us.
What's one of your favorite memories of Alternate Roots?
I think one of my favorite is maybe 3 years ago when I was the secretary on the XCOM. And amazingly, one of my favorite memories is a really tense business meeting that we had at the annual meeting. And I've got so many memories of annual meetings, you know, great artistic experiences and social and spiritual experiences. And then you would think a lot of times the business meeting part of it would be the tedious part, or the part that would get kind of swept under the rug. But really one of my favorite memories is, I don't remember what the conflict was, but we were having a discussion. I'm pretty sure it was about the budget, and it was really, really heated. And we had an XCOM meeting and decided that I was going to facilitate the next little section of conversation about it. And I was very nervous about it because I wasn't, I feel really my ability as an artist, but as a facilitator, that's something I'm constantly learning and growing with. And it's not that the conflict was resolved or that, the meeting went well and everyone applauded me. It was just that I felt really competent and supported leading this business conversation. And afterwards, Nayo called me mouthy, and it was a compliment. That she was going to facilitate the next section, and we had a little XCOM meeting during lunch, and she said, "No, I want the mouthy one to keep going." And that was such a huge, I want to have that written on my wall. I want the mouthy one to keep going, Nia Watkins. And really that's one of my favorite Roots memories.
What is Looking for Lilith? Tell us about the organization and what the work is.
We are a professional women's ensemble theater based in Louisville. What we do is we are dedicated to re-examining history from women's experiences and creating original performance experiences based on that examination. So we devise original work about women's history. We also devise workshops and encounters for, young women and also men. Anyone is welcome to participate in our workshops, but we also do workshops where we learn together as a community more about women's history and women's experiences.
And what's your role with Looking for Lilith?
I am the artistic director.
So tell us, what are you guys up to these days?
We're up to a lot. There's so many things I could tell you, but I will focus on the 2 things that are keeping us really, really busy. Maybe three things. One is that we created a couple of years ago a show about the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire in New York in 1911. That was an incident, turn of the century New York. I guess I should say turn of the 20th century New York, now that we've turned another one. Most of the workers in garment factories and sweatshops in New York City were immigrant women and often very young. And they did not have set hours. They did not have set pay. They did piecework. They often worked, 18-hour days. And there were people in the city that were unionizing, but a lot of the factories locked their workers in at the beginning of the day to keep union organizers from getting to them, and also to keep them from leaving to go to the bathroom, which was considered stealing time. And so a really pivotal moment in the labor movement was in 1911, a fire started in the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory building, and because the doors were locked, 146 people died in 15 minutes. 132 of those were women. And it was really a galvanizing point for the women's labor movement. So we created an original performance piece about it that's called Fabric, Flames, and Fervor. And this March 25th will be the 100-year centennial of the fire. And so we have actually been invited to come up to New York with the Remember the Triangle Coalition. So that's what's really big on our plates right now, is we're getting ready to take Fabric, Flames, and Fervor to Manhattan Theatre Source, March 24th through 27th. And the theater where we're performing is actually within, a stone's throw of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory building. So that feels really meaningful to return to the scene of the tragedy and honor these women's stories. So that's one thing.
What's the other?
Well, we've got this big Theater of the Oppressed piece that we've been working on now for 2 years. It's called Choices. And it is a play about young women and cyberbullying, which I know has been in the news just constantly. But we've been doing it in high schools for about 1.5 years. And the big thing that we're doing now is we got a grant from the Kentucky Foundation for Women to kind of turn it over to a high school cast. So the Lilith company members will no longer be performing the roles. It will no longer be strictly us performing the roles. We're training 3 high school actors to play the protagonist and the other characters, and they're going to start touring it to high schools and middle schools, which our hope is that will give the spectators in the audience a greater sense of ownership, because the people that they're seeing portraying these roles are their peer group and not a group of older women pretending to be 15. So that is really exciting. Actually, when I get off the phone with you, I will be heading to rehearsal with our high schoolers.
Tremendous.
So that's the other really big thing that's on our plate.
And
then we also continue to go to Guatemala whenever we can to work with our sisters down there. So that's the third thing.
Sure. So what gets you excited, or what is your biggest challenge?
Okay, what gets me excited is when we're doing choices for an audience and somebody in the audience intervenes and suggests something that we've never tried before. That gets me really excited. Anything that makes a performance vital rather than rote gets me excited. Performing a story when I know that there are people in the audience whose stories we're telling, that gets me really excited. And challenges. I am challenged by money. I mean, we at Lilith, for instance, right now, we don't exactly know how we're paying for our trip to New York, but we're going. We hope that by the time the bills come due, we'll have the money for it.
Sounds like a very familiar story to me. So, final question. Are you coming to the festival, and what are you excited about with our festival?
Yes, I will be coming. And actually, what I am really excited about is seeing other people's work. I am flying solo to Baltimore, and I'm really excited about being an observer. I feel like I need to be fed by seeing some work of my artistic family whose work really inspires.
That's a great goal, and I think it's definitely going to be met in spades from what I've seen behind the scenes.
Good.
Tremendous. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thanks, Shannon Woolley from Looking for Lilith.
Thank you, Shannon Turner.